This has been a fantastic reading year, and I finished about 70 books so far. I should definitely crack 100 before the end of the year, and probably even before the end of November. So it's way too many books though to talk about all in one video, so I'm bringing just the best of the best right now. And I'm sure I'll add a few new favorites before the end of the year, but for right now, these are like the 10 to 12 absolute best books I've read so far this year. The first book on this list is Government Cheese by Steven Pressfield. And now Pressfield is a guy I will read every single book that he puts out. Like if he comes out with a new book, I buy it. I might glance at the description. I just know it's going to be good, so I buy it. This one's a memoir, and it goes way back from his earliest days as a really young man, as like a truck driver, before he was like fully committed to being a writer. And I listened to the audio version, like him reading it, which is just, it adds a lot to it. But at one point, like he basically gave up everything and moved into a shack in the middle of nowhere. And all he had was like a book, like books and his typewriter, and his one goal, like one singular focus of emerging from that shack, a writer or nothing. And like that's pretty much it. Like those were the options that he gave himself. And you know, we know the ending of it, but man, this like Government Cheese is such a phenomenal memoir. It's and like I said, like listen to him read it. It's like spectacular. If you're a writer yourself or you want to be, it might scare you away from it, but I think the opposite will happen. And it's just really, really good. It was a highlight of my year. All right, so moving right along, we got The Little Black Book of Workout Motivation by Mike Matthews. And this one is like if Jordan Peterson wrote a fitness book, like he'd come up with something a lot like this. It was definitely a highlight of my reading year. The most important message here, you know, the only two places in the entire world where every single person is welcome is, you know, the gym and the library. Like in either one of those two places, yes, there are jerks in both places. There are condescending nerds in libraries and, you know, like annoying meatheads in gyms, but like that's not the majority. Like most people in both those places will welcome you with open library cards, and yeah, so like that's kind of his message here. Like do not be put off from going to the gym. Just step inside those doors. Like that's like all you need to do. And yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised by this one. Okay, next up, one of my favorite books of all time. I finished this book in like February. I have not stopped thinking about it since. It is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. It's this like French adventure novel from 1844. The main character, Edmond Dantes, he's a sailor. He gets wrongfully accused of a crime he doesn't commit, and he's thrown in this like terrifying, terrible dungeon for 10 years. He meets this like fellow prisoner. The prisoner tells him about this buried treasure that he's not sure, like Dantes doesn't know whether this guy's like full of shit or like if there's actually a treasure. He escapes in epic fashion. Spoilers, I mean, but this happened in like page 200 or something like that. And so he escapes epic fashion and finds the buried treasure, gets rich as and basically spends the rest of the novel taking revenge on the people that put him away. It is just phenomenal. It's exciting, superbly well written, and it's just like I did not want it to end. Like I'm looking forward to the day when I've forgotten enough of it that I can read it again. Like this is one of those books that I will reread like without question. Like I'm looking forward to the day, and I don't say that very often. So it's just one of my absolute favorites of all time. And yeah. The next one is a book I read on my phone. It's called The Essential Wooden, and so it's by this basketball coach, John Wooden, and co-writer Steve Jameson. I did a complete breakdown of this book for the Stairway to Wisdom, my library of expert book breakdowns. And okay, so I'm not finished it yet, but the Little Black Book of Workout Motivation, I'm including that in the Stairway to Wisdom as well. That breakdown's going to come out pretty soon. But yeah, so I've already finished one for The Essential Wooden, and like I don't even watch basketball. You know, I've played, you know, recreationally maybe a couple times, and just like hanging out with friends. Like I'm not good at it. You know, I don't watch it. Like I don't care. But John Wooden, as like a coach and a person and a leader, he's just a phenomenal role model, someone to emulate in so many respects. And the biggest idea from this one book is his idea of competitive greatness. And it really, everything comes on the back of doing your absolute best, which is something that, you know, a lot of people think that they're doing, but they're really not. Like your best is so much more than you know, than you think it is. Like you haven't even come close to, you know, to doing your best. You can't even see what your best looks like. But his contention is that, you know, doing your best is all that you need to do. And like, it's hard to do your best. Like, it's literally the hardest thing you will ever do. But if you actually pull it off, you will have achieved competitive greatness. And what he says is, regardless of what it says on the scoreboard, like, you know, you are a winner no matter what. But as long as you put forth that insane personal effort and achieve competitive greatness. And yeah, and like, it's not just him, like, you know, like, he was just like an average coach saying like, yeah, just try your best, you know, that's fine. But he also won like 88, you know, basketball games in a row, like 10 NCAA championships. Like, he's like top, like, professional, like, or top college basketball coach, like, just insanely good at what he does. And like, this is his message. I'm a big fan of this book. Like I said, I wrote a complete breakdown of it. Love it. Okay, I feel like this video is going longer than I intended, so I'm gonna move a little bit faster. The next one is called Why I Read by Wendy Lesser. It was one, like, I had no idea who this woman was, and I was so pleasantly surprised by just how good this book was. It's perfect for book lovers. Like, it's our book. And one of the things she says, which is, like, I thought was really cool, it's like, when you discover your, like, a new favorite author, it's like discovering an entirely new country. And she has so many insights like that, just littered throughout the book. And like, it's not overly long. The reading level is a little bit higher. Like, it takes a little bit to get it. She's a very smart woman, but it's so worth reading. Okay, next up is Read to Lead by Jeff Brown and Jesse Visnovsky. These guys have a podcast of the same name, Read to Lead. And this was another book that I took so many notes on, and way more than I thought it would. I thought I would know a lot of this stuff already, and like, I wasn't expecting, you know, everything that I came away with. And like, again, it's perfect for people who already love to read, but it's more directed at people who want to sort of elevate their quality of leadership by reading more. So it's got a ton of helpful advice on how to read more, you know, why you might want to, like, what the benefits are, like, in real practical terms, like why, you know, readers are leaders. That's like, it's sort of a dumb cliche phrase, but it's absolutely true. And you'll find out why in this book. I loved it. I'm not quite finished taking all my notes from it, but I will be sharing it in my newsletter. I will probably be doing a complete breakdown of it for Stairway to Wisdom. You'll be hearing me talk about this book a lot more. And next one is another one I've done for Stairway to Wisdom. Like, you know, if I read a great book, I just share it immediately with like everybody that I can. So I wrote like 12,000 words on this book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. So he is a legendary music producer, and he worked with like just all these like disparate authors. Like, the only thing that the authors he works with have in common is that they all play music. Like, there's Slayer and Jay-Z, and just like all these like hip hop artists, and, you know, metal bands, and like singers, and like I think he worked with Johnny Cash, dude. Like, all of these people, like, they have nothing to do with each other. Like, put them in a room, like, they would have nothing to talk about. But he's like, he produced all their records, and his book is about creativity, and it's not like a rule book, so to speak. Like, you can't like just follow the rules for creativity, obviously. But what people pay him for is his sharp observations, and this book is just a condensed version of those that he's been giving people in the studio for decades. And yeah, I love this one. I wrote a complete breakdown of it, and I'm sorry I have to go this fast through all of these books, because I mean, not just the ones I'm mentioning in this video, but like all the rest of them too. Like, I don't read bad books. Like, if I read something that's like not grabbing me, I just stop reading it. You know, I quit that book and I go pick up another book that's better. You know, and so like these 70 books that I finished, like every single one of them could have been in this video, but like they're just not. Maybe I'll do a book of like, you know, 100 and however many books I read summarized in one sentence each or something like that. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see a video like that, because I've always sort of wanted to do one. But I'll just go through a few more books here. One is one of the better business books that I've read recently. It's 10x is Easier Than 2x by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. Ben Hardy is one author I will read anything that he puts out. I have three of his books up already with complete breakdowns at Stairway to Wisdom. So The Gap and the Gain, Be Your Future Self Now, which has a dumb title, but it's a fantastic book. And what else? Who Not How is another one. And so this one, 10x Easier Than 2x, about scaling your business, scaling yourself as well, your own capabilities, and how just like shooting like for big achievements is actually, it either takes less effort or like the same amount of effort as it would to achieve like smaller things. You just have to change your thinking and how you approach it. And like you would expend rather the same amount of effort just aiming lower. Like you do the same amount of work, but because your strategy was different and your thinking was different, your results could be dramatically different. And it's this change, in the beginning that you make. It's a qualitatively different way of thinking about your business, about your career, and you make that switch in the beginning, and big changes can result over time. So you can be sure that I'll be including this in the Stairway to Wisdom as well. So I will eventually have a complete breakdown of this book. I don't yet, but I will soon. And there's another book that I absolutely love this year, and this is another like surprise favorite. Like I did not expect to like it as much as I did. It's called Message from the Middle of Nowhere by Gunnar Andri Thorsson. He's a sales trainer, business person from Iceland, and his book is so worth reading. The one thing that I think of whenever I think of this book is the message that, that honesty is like everything in like your reputation travels at the speed of light, and you have to protect it, or else like if you lose that, like what else do you have? So it's like, yes, there's the profit motive, like nobody starts a business not to make money, but at the same time, like it's not all about, the people and, the friends you make along the way. At some time, like you do actually have to make money. But at the same time, like if you sacrifice your honesty and integrity, that money, first, it doesn't mean anything. Like you're not going to be happy with it. You might buy stuff, but you'll never sort of buy back your own soul. And also like it's just a terrible business strategy, especially like how everybody knows each other nowadays. So like I'm constantly shocked at like the people that I know that I didn't know that they know all these other people. Like I was talking to another author on Twitter. And turns out, like I mentioned this guy whose book that I read before I read his, and the guy's like, yeah, he's sitting across the table from me. And regardless of all that, it's just a better, easier way of going through life, just being straightforward with people and honest, and just like being a person of integrity that somebody can look up to, somebody like John Wooden, for instance. And yeah, so love this book, fantastic message. Okay, I can't keep packing in book recommendations in this one video. I have to quit sometime. So I'll mention just a couple more that I read on my phone. One of Stephen King's latest novels, Billy Summers, which is phenomenal. It's just like, there's not a whole lot of supernatural elements in it, but it's just gripping. Like it's really good. It's just like, why he's such a fantastic writer, so well known. Another excellent business book is called The Answer by John Assaraf and Murray Smith. Again, I did not expect to like it as much as I did. John Assaraf was featured in The Secret, which is a movie and a book that I generally deplore. It's too light on the taking action. The message of like crossing your legs and wishing for a Ferrari, and like that's not like how business works. Contrary to all that, The Answer by John Assaraf and Murray Smith, like it is like an actual business book combined with some of those mental practices. Then we've also got No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs by Dan Kennedy. I've read 3 Dan Kennedy books in the last week and a half. They are phenomenal. I have a combined maybe 50 pages of notes from all 3, and I will definitely be sharing those. But I will finish the video with these two, one of my favorite novels from one of my favorite novelists of all time, and a biography that I absolutely adored. And so I'll start with the biography, I guess, and it is Outlaw Journalist by, good question, William McKean. And I think, yeah, William McKean, but it's about Hunter S. Thompson, who's like such a big personality. Like he crowds out every other person around him, including his biographer. Like you don't even know who wrote the biography, but you remember Hunter S. Thompson. Like he is unforgettable, and this book just proves it. It's phenomenal, and it shows like many sides of him, aspects of his personality that lots of people just don't get to see, and it's kind of a tragic story. As basically all biographies are towards the end, because the main character always dies at the end. And then we've got the last one. It's by Kurt Vonnegut. It's called God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And Kurt Vonnegut was one of the people responsible for getting me into reading, like years ago. Like I don't think I would be as big a reader, as dedicated a reader as I am right now if I hadn't been exposed to some earlier Kurt Vonnegut novels like Cat's Cradle and Slaughterhouse-Five and Breakfast of Champions, and Sirens of Titan. Like, all those books are phenomenal. This one is just as hilarious. And this guy, Elliot Rosewater, he heads this like charitable trust. His family has like this $80 million fortune, and the main character, it's like control of this fortune goes to like one family member until they die or are proved insane. And so like the villain in this book is basically trying to prove that Mr. Rosewater is insane because he wants to give all his money away and help people. And so that's like vintage Vonnegut. I love this book. It's like super funny, super heartfelt, and just it makes you feel good to read it. And like just read it. Anyway, so that was a lot of books. I'm gonna stop right there. I'm not even going to like mention anything except, you know, subscribing to the channel if you want to, and liking the channel, or liking this video if you actually liked it. I will, however, if for some reason you want to watch like more videos right now, spend even more time with me, I'll put 2 other pretty good videos up on the screen right now. You can decide which ones to read. And hey, happy reading.
I don't waste time, no, I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sitting there just waiting, I'm creating.